We're not talking about AI. I'm sorry. We're talking about our feelings. So welcome. Okay. So story time. So like 2 weeks ago, yesterday, I almost died. Kind of. So I went on this whitewater rafting trip. It was 5 days long. It was through the gates of Lador in Utah in Dinosaur National Monument. Extremely beautiful. It was day 2 and we were about to do the biggest run of the entire trip. It was this class 4 rapids run that's called Hell's Half Mile. So you can maybe use your imagination to consider what that might look like a little bit. So we started the run, and the raft immediately hits a rock, and that means that the raft goes up, like nose down. I'm in the back, and I do this fun, like, front flip into class 4 rapids. And land in them and start freaking out a little bit. It's really cold. I start swimming and swimming and swimming, but the raft kept getting further and further away. And in this scenario, if you haven't like been in class 4 rapids before, like you can't really hear, all the water is rushing. I couldn't see very well because I had my sunglasses on and couldn't get them off. And I could just see the people on the boat looking really scared and trying to scream at me, but I couldn't hear what they were trying to say. My brain kind of froze and just thought like, Andrea, you have to swim or you're gonna die in this water today. So I swam. I swam like Michael Phelps, and I kept going and kept going until I eventually got to this raft, and then they put their hand out, and I tried to grab it, and then I hit a rock, and it hurt, and I couldn't get it, and I'm like, I'm never gonna get on, and I put my hand out, and they finally get me, and they pull me up, and I'm here, I'm okay, obviously, but it was really scary. And the reason I am telling this story is A, it seemed like a really cool way to start my conference talk, but B, because this is the first time I'm ever giving a conference talk, and my nervous system doesn't really know the difference between me swimming Hell's Half Mile and talking in front of all of you guys, right? And I think that's a pretty good illustration of what anxiety looks like. It's not logical. It doesn't scale to actual stakes, right? Like, I'm probably not going to drown in the next 15 minutes. We'll find out. So we want to talk a little bit about that and our perspective. Okay, sorry for the dramatics. Hi, I'm Andrea Pepper. I am an IT engineer at Fleet, and I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 8 years old. I have been medicated, I have been unmedicated, but I have been surviving with this my entire life and my entire career. More important aspects of me, I live in Colorado, I am a hiker, and I do stupid things like whitewater rafting, and I do camping, and I have an awesome dog named Tanuki, who's really cute and a very good boy. All right, but I am not the only part of this talk. We also have a Kitzy. Kitzy, your turn.
Okay, first of all, not Kitzy, the Kitzy. Thank you very much. What's up? You all know me. I'm Kitzy. I have been struggling with having ADHD and being on the autism spectrum for my entire life. Unfortunately, no one told me that until about 2.5 years ago. So everything was just really hard for a long time, and I didn't understand why. And it's been kind of a journey coming to terms with the way that my brain works and kind of accepting that and learning how to work with it instead of against it, which we'll talk about later. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on how my brain works because I could talk about that for a long time and no one wants to hear it. But if you are interested, I have a README on my website that actually is kind of like the instruction manual for interfacing with me and how my brain works. If you are neurodivergent, or even if you're not, I highly recommend making a README to give to your coworkers, your colleagues, anyone you interact with regularly. It can be really useful to know like how people's brains work and why they do the things the way that they do, and how to better interact with them. And you can also discover a lot about yourself as you write one, which I did too. So highly recommend that. But I'm going to come back to that later. For now, I'm going to hand it back to Pepper.
Okay, so we don't have much time, so I'm going to try to get to the point here. Most of us with neurodivergent brains, it usually is accompanied by chronic anxiety. And a lot of us with that anxiety spend our whole lives treating fear like a stop sign. So sometimes something can feel really scary or overwhelming, and our default is just to stop, to freeze, and to wait until that fear goes away until we take action or until we move forward. But here is the thing. Obviously, fear doesn't just go away. You just wait, and that dopamine hit that you're looking for from finishing that thing, but you never actually finish the thing, never comes. And you get stuck in this vicious cycle, and you work in this fear loop. Or at least I do, for sure. Might sound familiar. So everything we're going to talk about today is just changing that one pattern, which is not eliminating the fear. That's not realistic. The goal is to stop treating it like a barrier and to start walking alongside the fear and being able to do things while afraid. Cool. So I am definitely not a neuroscience scientist, but before we get into what we can do about it, I want to give you a quick frame for what actually can be happening in your brain when fear shows up like this in your life and at your job. As psychologist J.P. Guilford identified this thinking style back in 1956 called Divergent thinking. And that's kind of like creative thinking. This is the ability to generate multiple solutions from a single problem. So it's characterized by fluency, flexibility, originality, and the exploration of many possibilities simultaneously. And an ADHD brain tends to trend towards this kind of thinking, expansive thinking. In my opinion, and in my case for myself, being a divergent thinker in tech is a pretty big asset. That means that I can generate like 10 different approaches to a broken system before most people have even noticed that it's broken, which is great. And I can find unexpected connections. I can do a lot of lateral thinking. I can see angles that a lot of other people might miss. But here's the catch. When you're a divergent thinker and you don't have structure, the thinking doesn't stop generating ideas. It just keeps going. So in the lens of the chronic anxiety, that means that you can think of a million different ways that something can go wrong or how you can mess it up. And then you get stuck in this loop and you don't start or you don't try. We're going to talk to Kitzy about what that looks like in practice.
Gotta make some space for my notes here. Sorry, okay. That's good enough. All right, so what this looks like in practice. Right, I was supposed to make slides, wasn't I? Yeah. So, this talk is about neurodivergence and about how neurodivergence can make it really hard, even impossible, to do things sometimes. And I think we can all agree that so far I'm absolutely nailing it. That was a joke. Thank you. It says pause for laughter, so I can't really go on until you all... Thanks, okay. Appreciate indulging me there. Can I be like super real with y'all for a minute? Yeah, okay. Are you cool with that? Okay. I'm sure a lot of you heard this already. I know I've talked to a lot of you this week. I left my laptop on the plane on the way here. I mean, that was definitely ADHD. I put it in the seat back pocket, and then it was gone. I forgot it existed. And it would be so easy for me to tell you right now that the reason I don't have any slides for this talk, and the reason that I am kind of winging this part of the talk right now, is because that my slides and all my notes for this talk that I spent ages working on were on that laptop, and now they're gone, and I didn't have a backup. And you would probably believe me. But that's not what happened. It's totally what happened with my talk yesterday, just to be clear. That's 100% what happened. It's not what happened here. Here's what did happen. Pepper and I submitted this abstract together a few months ago, and I was genuinely excited. I had ideas. I had plans. This was going to be awesome. But my ambition wrote a check that my calendar could not cash. Pepper tried to organize working sessions a few times, And I kept blowing them off, saying, like, we've got plenty of time. I've got a lot going on right now. This week's not good. We will do it next week, I promise. I promise we'll do it next week. The thing I need you to understand is that I did not forget to do my slides. I knew about them the whole time. I thought about them constantly, every day. Every time I sat down and it was theoretically time to work on them. My brain just wouldn't. It started screaming at me, literally anything else. Anything. Clean something. Organize your sock drawer. Go stare at the sky. Reverse engineer calculus. Anything but this. So I'd do something else instead. And then I'd feel bad about it. And then I'd continue to not work on my slides, and I'd feel bad about that. And then I'd continue to not work on it, and then we'd have another call, and I'd say, totally working on it. It's a fun little shame spiral. On one of our, cannot stress this enough, weekly sync calls about this talk, she actually walked me through the techniques she's going to share with you in a few minutes. Y'all, she handed me the map, and I still didn't do it. One of the ways my ADHD manifests for me is that my brain only recognizes two times. There is now, and there is not now. That's all I got. For whatever reason, I just couldn't move this talk from the not now bucket to the now bucket. That was a problem for future Kitzy. So I'm here today, and now I am future Kitzy, and all I have for you is this placeholder slide. Thank you! I worked really hard on if I was going to use the angle brackets or the square brackets. I went through a lot of iterations. That was the really important part. Thank you. Was I going to put a space in between the brackets and the texts or not? Is it too busy? Should it just say placeholder? These are the problems that were worth solving. Everything else in this talk, it's all Pepper. I didn't do anything. All I did was this, and I showed up today. And she just let me. There was no guilt trip. There was no ultimatum. She didn't make me feel small about the fact that I very clearly was not contributing to this project that was, cannot stress this enough, my idea in the first place. She just picked up the slack and kept going, and that's why you have this great talk that's in front of you today. Most people, I think, would have been upset with me, and they would have had every right to be, but Pepper just moved forward and kept the door open and built something genuinely good. That is a choice that she made, and I believe that she probably made that choice more than once. I'm really sorry. I let you down as a colleague and a friend on this one. The amount of grace you've shown by letting me stand up here with you while you've done all the work and I've done nothing is not lost on me, and I appreciate you so much. Cool. So, this is how ADHD can manifest in real life. It's not laziness. It's not caring. It's having a brain that can hold genuine intention and genuine paralysis at the exact same time and somehow make both feel completely real. If you manage, work with, or love someone whose brain works like this, I hope this makes it a little more legible. The map doesn't always help, but grace does. And if you're the one with the map in your hand right now, not moving, Pepper's going to share the techniques that I really should have used. And hopefully they'll work better for you than they did for me. Thank you.
Aww. You clearly did work. I didn't know what she was going to say. That was very sweet. Okay, so if you find yourself in such a predicament that our dear Kitzy has found herself in, there's a few things that you might try that may help get you going. All right, so Before you try to solve anything, before you try to solve your problem or work on that really hard conference talk that you really don't want to work on, what do we got to do? We need to contain it first and give it walls. Whenever you have a divergent brain, that means that you do not have a convergent brain. You don't have those walls or containment that already exist within your general thinking space that can kind of allow you to keep on one track, right? So we need to create them artificially. And here's what that looks like in practice. Before you do anything else, what I want you to do is write down 3 things, right? I want you to write down what you know about the problem. I want you to write down what you don't know and what you need to find out. And the third thing, most importantly, I need you to write down what is not your job to solve during this brainstorming session. That one is really, really important. And then we time box the investigation. So I'm going to spend 20 minutes on this, on finding the answers before I escalate. That's essentially the whole aspect of this technique. You're not trying to solve an infinite problem. You're just trying to make the problem small enough that you can just get like a little small chunk going and that you've started some initial forward momentum. Okay. So you contain your problem, right? The next thing that you're going to have to do is do the work, and that is a technique that we call the Pomodoro box. Now, the Pomodoro box is not about productivity. It's, again, just about creating walls around your work so starting doesn't feel quite as scary. So here's what it is. It's just a fixed window timer. Classically, this usually means 25 minutes of focused work, then maybe a 5-minute break, and you do this for about 4 rounds or so. But for our purposes, the structure matters a lot less than the actual concept. It's that you have one task, one timer, and most importantly, absolutely no judgment whenever you're writing. So pick your window. That could be 15, 25, 30 minutes, whatever you think that your brain can handle within that session. But you need to decide on just one task before the timer starts. Not like a list of tasks, like literally one thing within your big project. And whenever your brain says, what if I'm wrong? What if I need to check that? What if that's factually incorrect? You're going to have like a notebook to the side of your computer, and you just write down whatever that little intrusive fear-based thought is and keep it outside of your Pomodoro box. Keep it over there. Look at that after your 25 minutes. Deal with that later. Just work on your box. And then when the timer ends, you start. The most important rules here is there is no replanning. There's no going back to the beginning once you start your 25 minutes. No expanding scope. I'm really bad at that one. And no starting over within your box. You commit to it. So when the timer ends, you stop. You can take a break. You can choose another box. You can keep going if you have momentum. That's fine. But the point is just not to drift and to get you started. Totally okay if you don't finish. All right, how do we do a Pomodoro box in practice, guys? It's really easy. You don't need one of the million fancy apps that are there for it. You can, but you know what a Mac admin loves? It's Spotlight Search. So on your Macs that you already have out and are doing stuff on, do Command Spacebar, type on the word timer, and if you're on MacOS 26, you should see timer come up on the first or second option. Click on that. It's going to have a duration. Put in 25 minutes, and there you go. Pomodoro box. Or just say, hey, Siri, set timer for 25 minutes. Obviously, we all know how to do that. Very simple. Okay. So, as I've been listening to a lot of y'all's amazing workshops and presentations, sorry, we did a workshop on Wednesday. It's in my brain. A common theme that I've heard you guys say is like, okay, I had this really great idea, and then I wanted to get started, and then I realized how big it was. Or I wanted to get started, and I realized how hard it was to start. So this is just a technique that can help you get past that initial giant stop sign of, I have this cool idea, but this might be too big for me to start, right? So next week, I want you to think of one thing at work that's been sitting undone because it's, just feels way, way too big to start. And you push it all the way to the back of your list because you're too scared to get it going. And think about what one 25-minute Pomodoro box, no starting over, one subject, might look like in getting that started. Okay. I don't know if any of what I just told you was fully coherent because it was only 15 minutes. Sorry, guys. But here, if nothing else, is what I want you guys to leave with. A lot of us in this industry are neurodivergent. We have ADHD, we have autism, we have anxiety, we have depression. We have a lot of stuff that makes getting just through the workday really, really hard. And it comes along with, chronic anxiety, and that means for most of our lives, we treat this fear like as a stop sign. And I'm afraid to start. I can't move forward. I'm just going to put it in my back burner. It's too big. I freeze, right? So then we wait for that dopamine hit of finishing something at the last minute, like the night before. We would never do that with a conference talk. Because that's the only way that an ADHD brain is actually able to get ourselves to do it, is by delaying, and then finally doing it, getting that rush, having it completed, and finally getting that reward center of whoa, I did it. The reframe is that this is scary and I'm going to stop and I'm not going to try. The reframe from that is this is scary, but I am strong enough to start anyway, even while I'm scared. Contain the problem first, give it walls, open your box, 25 minutes, work on one thing. And yeah, we just want to say you're not broken, you're not behind, you are not alone, and you are not the only person in this room whose brain can get really loud. I promise you, it's probably most people. It's definitely me. I'd love to talk to you about it. But with all that, containment is a skill, and with any skill, you have to practice it. And in this practice, we practice with the box. So give it a try. See how it goes. And those are some resources, some really good books if you want to read about ADHD brain and also focusing in modern work. And then if you do want a fancy Pomodoro app, there are quite a few that you can try. Okay, thanks, guys.